When it hits, it really hits. Reminds me of the game we did, the whole Mr. and Mrs. Smith thing,
Oh yeah.
setting the whole
That was so
Ooh,
scene
much
and
fun.
getting all dressed up, and we're pulling
yeah.
elements of like the BDSM gear and just like our own swag, pulling into it, and yeah, I love
I
that.
want to also reflect back to you how much joy and connection I just saw in the two of you, not talking about the sex that you had, but talking about the experience of co-creating that scene. And
Yep.
that's where the fucking magic is, y'all. And that is
Yeah.
Yes.
what I'm teaching you how to do.
Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome to the Sex Second Chill. I am Yo Big Rube,
And I'm your girl Sherry J.
and today we have shit. But I just
Arielle.
forgot Arielle Zadok, pleasure producer, and a whole lot of other things. We initially connected with you during a panel for the Museum of Sex, Art, and Science in Chicago a couple of weeks ago. And then after that experience, we're like, yeah, we definitely got to get you on the show and have a conversation with you. So this is the culmination of that. And I know, your title says pleasure producer, but I also know you have a lot of other things that you do, from everything from pole to dance to intimacy coordinating, to sex coaching or in intimacy coaching. Correct me if I'm wrong. So with all that being said, and a lot of things that might seem disconnected, though I feel like I can see the connection pretty clearly, like between those different things. I'd love to hear about like how you got into doing what you're doing, and I'm super intrigued to hear about like how you made your way into like Hollywood films and TV and that kind of stuff. We were before we started recording, we were talking about Seinfeld and Kramer, and like your voice just sounds really good coming through the headphones through your mic. So like, I'm appreciating this. This is real dope.
I love the tease because I haven't said anything yet. Oh, yeah. So I made up the term the pleasure producer because I do a lot of things, and that's always how I've been. That's always who I've been. And they are all connected. But I do have a lot of different, we didn't even talk about the sex parties. So I am a sex party professional. I work for three of them. I'm the care and consent director for two of them. I facilitate workshops at another one. So my entire world truly is about pleasure and production. It's these two things, and for a very long time they existed in silos. They were different worlds. So I had my film production, TV, advertising, all of that, and then separately in this bucket I had holistic health coaching and sex education and pole dancing and all of these things that were like, ooh, they can't connect until really I think it was pole dancing that kind of helped merge all those things together, and obviously intimacy coordinating as well. Once I had the break from the pandemic, I was working at Disney leading their health and safety department, building all the policies, protocols, just making sure people didn't get COVID as best we could. It was pretty wild. That gave me the break from traditional producing, assistant directing, advertising, film, all that stuff. It gave me that break to really step into sex and intimacy in a complete way, as opposed to having these two worlds, because I was doing sex and intimacy work while I was still doing that. But yeah, then at some point I was just able to like, let's just put it all together. And I've got the podcast, and yeah, all of it does tie into, like, I'm a producer. First and foremost, I'm a producer. I'm always going to be a producer. I will always look through at things through a producer's lens, including how I help people approach sex and intimacy and creating these erotic experiences or these intimate experiences or these connected experiences. I approach that with a producer's lens because we have a format that works, and it works across any type of creative you want to do, and it works across every part of the world and every language. And so how do we apply that to our relationships? How do we apply that to our intimacy? How do we apply that to our sex, to our kink, to all of these things? Well, I teach you how to fuck like the movies. So, it really, I don't think I answered your question at all. But it is, I've got a lot of little pockets, and they do finally all tie in together. And that's a really good feeling to be able to show up fully and completely.
I'm noticing that being a common theme lately with a lot of people. Like Sunny Megatron had said something similar to like having to always kind of put their different interests into different pockets or buckets or whatever. And they're just like, why? Why do we have to like separate all these things out? Why can't we bring them together? And just be multiple things within a bigger thing. I think we're doing something very similar. That's why I was really interested in your story. I was like, are you like one of those people that has like all these interests and you're like, you're not going to pigeonhole me? But now
Yeah.
you found a way to like make it easy for people and yourself. Probably, I assume it's easier to do like a couple of things within a bucket versus independent things where you have to promote and get clients and all that for all these independent things. Are they coming together now into like one business, or are you still doing multiple things? And yeah, I'm going to ask too many questions. I'll let you go there.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is going to be such a fun conversation. And I want to touch on the piece that we started with here, with people being siloed and people having to separate themselves. And the truth is that we are holistic beings. And for some people, monogamy is great, having one job is great, having one track is great. That's fantastic. For me, and likely a lot of other people, I never chose one path. Even when I was only doing production, I have such a rare set of experiences within production because even at that, I couldn't choose a path. I was like, well, I want to produce. Well, I also want to first AD. I don't feel like I need to choose a path. I was very conscious about how I built my career, where I would do some things along the producer track and then be like, oh, I'm doing too much here. Let me go over here and focus on assistant directing for a little while. And then I'd get in that loop and I'd say, oh, I'm doing too much here. Let me make sure I'm focusing here too. So I effectively built my career as a parallel path, where a lot of people, especially between producing and ADing, they'll be able to produce. They'll say, oh, I'm a producer, but I can also AD. I'm an AD, but I can also produce. I was not that person. I was never interested in being that person. I wanted to be efficient and knowledgeable and good at my job, whether I was here or whether I was there. And now I also have intimacy coordinating as well. So I've always been this person that had all of these different things going on. Even if I look at my friends groups growing up, I really discovered this when I was exploring non-monogamy and realizing that, oh yeah, that's for sure me. Because even within my friend group, I never was with one clique. I was always here. I had one here and one here and one here. So I would weave in and out of these different groups. In college, I was in a sorority, but I was also in theater. So like I was in these two worlds, and I never chose one. I never went too deep with one. I just always maintained a consistency with both or with all or whatever it was. And that's really been who I have been throughout my life in all of these different areas. And I think a lot of people are like that, but we are in a world and society where we have to choose one track. We have to choose one person. We have to choose one major. And when you're 17 years old or 16 years old, and then that's the thing you do for the rest of your life. And for any of us that were working in 2008, we learned very quickly that that security that we were all taught, that we were all raised with 80s, 90s, and earlier, no longer existed. So we all grew up between, monogamy and all these one track things, being told you have to choose a major, you have to go down this path, you have to do this thing, you're going to get a job, you're going to be there for 30 years, you're going to get your pension, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. And then in 2008, all of that was destroyed.
This is an extraordinary period for America's economy. Over the past few weeks, many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future. I understand their worry and their frustration. We've seen triple-digit swings in the stock market. Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed. As uncertainty has grown, many banks have restricted lending. Credit markets have frozen, and families and businesses have found it harder to borrow money. We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis.
And that never came back into existence. So I think part of it is also now a lot of us have, for 30 years, still been trying to fit into that mold a little bit. And I think so many people have realized, first of all, we've all accepted that absolutely by no stretch of the imagination exists from an economical or job type perspective, from a workforce perspective. It just doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't. That's the truth. And I think a lot of us have lived long enough lives where we have grown up that way. Obviously, there are a lot of young people that were too young to be, in the workforce at that time. But I think a lot of us that are a little bit older have this experience and have lived enough professional life to be like, you know what? First of all, the one track doesn't exist anymore. So why am I trying so hard to do that? Why do I have to hide all of these pieces of myself? And for me, working in production, as a woman in production, as a woman in a masculine role in production, there was an additional layer of you can't be sexy, you can't be feminine, you can't be that much of a woman. They're going to hit on you anyway, but you got to try to deflect it as much as possible because it doesn't matter how I dressed. I was still getting hit on. I was still in those situations, no matter how masculine I was. And I tend to be pretty masculine at work. So I think it's just a matter of people recognizing like, yes, there's safety sometimes in those silos, but also it suppresses you. And we don't have to live in that way anymore. And I think there's just a global understanding of how expansive we all are as humans.
I love that you said so many things there that like hit so many things. One
Yeah.
of the, so my assumption is you're talking about the financial crash, the mortgage and subprime markets and all that stuff from 2008, and then the massive like basic more than a recession depression that we all got hit with in '08, which was for us, it was one of those things where it's like for the first time in a long time, everyone's in good company who doesn't have money because everyone else doesn't have money. And when your creditors are calling and you're like, I don't have no cash right now, and they're like, yeah, we're hearing that from literally every
Yeah.
phone call we're making, made life a lot easier.
It's
I
true.
mean, not that it was easy, but you know, we were all in good company. Yeah, considering the 1% got that nice whatever trillion bailout for having broken the economy in the first
Yeah.
place is a whole
Thanks,
nother
guys.
conversation. Yeah, exactly. You talked about I don't know where to go with this because I want to go in like five different
wherever you
directions.
want.
I told you I'm a yapper.
The thing that I was thinking about, like when you talked about bringing a masculine, basically leaning into your masculine side at work in your professional life, but then also I got the sense that it's like an example, like what I've heard before other women talk about how because of the way the corporate structures are, because of the history of how corporations started, that like intersection of both the military and you know heavy patriarchy, capitalism, they reward everything being masculine centered, and then women during the 1970s, you had a branch of second wave feminism that was talking about kind of like there was a lot of like demagoguery around femininity in the workplace and femininity and sensuality in a lot of ways, but if you leaned in the masculine side, it's kind of like you got these social rewards, right? I love how you're calling this out because I know, like, and I'm saying this because I know I've seen what Sherri's had to go through in a lot of ways, and I've seen what a lot of our different women friends have had to go through. Like, can you speak more to like how you have found your path through that? What if anything you've used for guidance or any like blueprints that other people have set that like you kind of like look to help you kind of figure out your own path through that?
Yeah, I think for me, I have a very masculine, like linear energy. So we all have multiple energies. We all have, when we're speaking about masculine and feminine, we are not speaking about genitals. We are not speaking about genders. We're speaking about energies. One of which is more linear. It's more of harsh angles, let's say, more direct, more solutions oriented, more this is the way. The feminine energy is more fluid energy. It's more creative energy. It's more not necessarily a zigzag, but maybe a swirl and then a zigzag and then who knows where. And it's more of intuitive and following a path, and it's a lot softer. So in our world, as you said, we are rewarded for that linear results energy in a very straightened path. And what we're not rewarded for, but with what is necessary and has so much value, is the intuition, is the nonlinear path, is following your instincts. And if you hear a lot of podcasts with men speaking, like CEOs, like the most powerful people, they talk a lot about that feminine energy. They're not going to call it that, but they're speaking specifically to following their gut and following their intuition. And all of that is that feminine energy. So it is a really interesting thing when we start to look at it, because what we are rewarded for is that masculine, linear results, all of that type of stuff where it's like one straightened path, mathematical equations, let's say. And then really the people at the top, the very, very top, are leaning into that feminine, creative. It's more of like a creative writing class versus a math class, right? So for me, I mean, I love being in that masculine energy. That I mostly do live there, and I do love that. And that's probably why I've thrived in a lot of those positions, because I have an operational mind, I have an analytical mind, I have policies, protocols, like let's find the way, because that makes it easy. But within that, you have to have the emotional intelligence, and that's where that feminine energy comes in. That's where you have to be able to read a room. That is so important, especially in any sort of a leadership position. The reasons I think why I've always done well in those positions was because I've got that linear mind, and I love to just like get shit done. Like if it's got to happen, let me get it done. Like here's the way, stop talking, let's just do this thing. Done. But within that, I have to be able to work with the people, see what's actually in front of me, see the humans that are in front of me, see the situation, see the nuance, and be able to flow within the structure. And that's where people find the most success, where you have the structure, you have the production, you have the pre-pro, right? Like great pre-pro, excellent production. If you put the time in to have all of those pieces in place, that is also what allows you to flow on the day and to be more intuitive and to lean into that energy. So I think this was happening for me in a very maybe unintentional way, and I didn't recognize it until I started doing this work, until I started learning about coaching, learning about these energies, learning about, you know, emotional intelligence in a more formalized way, where I'm like, oh, that I guess that's what I've been doing this whole time. So it does take a level of awareness, but some of us are just kind of intrinsically doing it because it is all part of the human experience. And some people are better at the more linear stuff, and other people are better at the more intuitive, you know, reading the room type stuff. Reading the room is literally emotional intelligence. That's what we're talking about there. So for me, I think it was more of recognizing what was happening and recognizing these two energies, and then getting into the shift of understanding that, which I always understood it, but just like living in the reality that, like, if you are going to treat me a certain way or hit on me or do anything in the workplace, that's on you, motherfucker. That shit ain't on me. That is not on me. I get to show up. If I want to be feminine at work and I want to wear red lipstick and I want to do my hair or, like, you know, do whatever, now that I'm an intimacy coordinator, I have actually worn dresses a couple times, and I'm like, oh, this is exciting. What is this? Look at this. I can do these things. This is wild. But leaning into the full expression of that, obviously I'm not going to be wearing crop tops and mini skirts and like sexualizing things. But the reality is people sexualize me no matter what the fuck I do.
Yep.
That's just true. Like I look the way I
We
look.
used to shovel snow commercially, and people would be yelling out, catcalling her while we're literally
Head
Yes.
to toe, snowsuit, hat,
yeah,
mittens,
so-
gloves, every
you know,
everything.
some men are just jackasses, and they will find a way to let that misogyny fly.
Yeah. So that's not on me. I don't need to suppress
exactly. That's
myself,
on them.
right?
I mean, but it's never on the person who's the subject of mistreatment. It's always on the person who's doling it out. Unfortunately, we've just seen too much of them flip it, because it allows them to not take responsibility for their own behavior, and it allows, you know, people to sidestep critiquing the culture that allows this and allows it to fester and to grow. When you were talking about this, one of the things I think about is how it's often framed as soft skills when you're talking about intuition, as though it's somehow secondary. And I mean, you're showing right now how this is not secondary. They're not soft skills. They're incredibly valuable skills. I think that because so many men are socialized to not put these things at an equal footing as other things, that if you put proper value on these skills, a lot of men probably wouldn't excel to the degree that a lot of other folks would, whether it's non-binary people or women. So I think that is one of the impetus to want to say, let's put this second tier down here, or third tier, even though it's so important, like communication, getting along, collaborating. I feel I know I cut you off. I apologize.
No, we're
wanted to
going,
point that
man.
out because of how valuable it was. You've thrown out a lot of terms like AD, which I believe is assistant director, or correct
Yes.
me if I'm wrong, and
Yeah.
then produce. What do each of those folks do? How does that translate like from film and media to like say sex parties?
Yeah. So, sex parties are events, right? We're communities. Everyone wants to call themselves a community, but and yes, there is community there, but at the end of the day, it's event production. So, whether that's a tiny event, a party in your house, that's event production. Setting up a scene with you and your partner, that's event production. All of this stuff is production if we choose to acknowledge that. Whether or not you acknowledge it is up to you, but you can have better experiences when you acknowledge the fact that when you are planning a date, you're producing something, right? So, um, and that's really the approach that I take to all of this is like, well, let's get you into that producer's mindset. So the producer is the person who takes that creative vision, whether that's the script or generally on before a director, sometimes same time, whatever. And there are so many different types of producers. So I'm going to just very, very broad strokes. But the producer is the one who oversees the whole vision. They oversee the money, they oversee the creative, they oversee the staff, they oversee the director. Like they work really closely with cast. So the producer is the one that truly brings it all together. They get all the department heads, they bring all the leaders together, they lead the leaders. Let's put it that way. They lead the leaders, they manage the budget or manage the people who manage the budget, depending on how big or small things are. So again, broad strokes. The producer is the orchestrator of everything, right? They have their hands in every single piece from the very first conception to the very last delivery, and even sometimes the analytics, depending on, again, what the situation is. So the producer is the overall overseer. The assistant director is the one who makes it actually happen. They are the voice on set. So when you're on set and you hear someone talking over the speakers or in your ear, that's the assistant director. So we do the script breakdown, we break down what we need, make sure that everyone has all the information that they have, that we're talking to the different departments, that they are prepared with what they need, that we are talking through how we're actually going to execute this vision, what is possible from a timing perspective, putting that timing together, putting the scheduling together, managing how many extras we need, what crafts like they are the overall executor and organizer of everything. So the producer is going to bring everything together and make sure that everyone is there. And then the AD takes over and actually manages the execution of everything. So they manage the day, they're the voice of the day, they're making sure that we have enough staff in all these different areas, that the department heads have what they need, that everyone knows what's happening. We're communicating all day, every day. It's so much communication. I always say that, and even with producing too, it's like I see all these little sparkles in the air, like all these little dust particles of like all of the stuff that's going on and everything that's in everyone's head. And I just bring it together and I present it back to you as a nice little bodice or a nice little bow or a nice little. So that's kind of how I see it. It's like there's all this stuff, I bring it together and then I organize it back out. So the way that we approach this for sex and intimacy, we could talk about sex parties. I mean, sex parties, play parties, we call them play parties because sex is never required. Play is never required. They are spaces for us to be playful and expansive and explore ourselves and explore other people and explore connections. Play is never required. Touch is never required. Kissing is never required. Nudity is never required. I love to say that all the
Thank
time.
you for pointing that out. Can you say more about that? Because I know, like a lot of folks don't realize when you go to a play party, you can just go to be in an erotically charged environment, take in all of that energy, and then bring it back to wherever you want to go for whatever your next destination is. Can you speak a little bit on that for folks who might have a curiosity or an interest but apprehensive because they might feel like if I go, people are going to try to touch me or
Certain
yeah,
expectations of what
exactly.
you're supposed to do or not supposed to do.
Absolutely. So again, play, which is any sort of like touch, cuddling, kissing, anything like that, it is never expected. It is never required. When you go to a play party and you are expecting that, you might come into problems. I have that conversation with people, mostly men who come for the first time, like single men, and they're like a little bit bummed by the end of the day, and or like the end of the party, that maybe they didn't find somebody, maybe they didn't connect with someone, and so I have to explain to them, like, hey, man, this is about connection. Like, most people in these communities aren't jumping to fuck someone. They're just, I can curse on here, right?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Say whatever the fuck you want.
Okay, perfect. I think I already did at some point, but like, 'cause I mean, literally, my podcast is fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't fuck, and my thing is fuck like the movie. So like, it's my world.
Nah, let those
My mom was so
motherfuckers
proud.
fly.
Yeah, yes, motherfuckers. So, you know, that. So a lot of times I'm just kind of explaining to people by the end of the night, if they're like a little bummed that they didn't fuck or anything or play or whatever. This is so much more about connection, and it takes time. Like, the first play party you go to, especially if you're single, you're probably not going to play with someone. It's, you know, maybe you will, but the reality is you're probably not, especially if you're new into the community, because a lot of it really is community oriented. There are also couples that go that don't play with anybody else. They only play with themselves. There are plenty of people that go that have no interest in having sex or playing or hooking up or anything like that. They just want to be, like you said, in that erotically charged space. There are plenty of people that go that just want to be in a space where they can fucking be free, where they can just be themselves, where they can wear the things that make them feel good, that can express the way that feels good. We have so few spaces in our world. Yeah, right? Like we have so few spaces where you can wear lingerie just for the sake of it. I host a monthly workshop here in LA called Coven of Harlots, and it's only for women, and I encourage women just to like wear the things, because you don't get to, especially outside of the context of I'm going to have sex with my partner, right? So we don't have that many spaces in our world where you can be erotically expressive, where you can wear some leather, where you can be a little bit of a character, where you can just be playful, because it's the essence of life. It is so important that as adults, we tap into that playfulness, that expressiveness, that curiosity, all of these things that keep us alive. Eroticism is not explicitly about sex. It's about being alive. It's about tapping into that part of ourselves that is expansive, that is playful, that wants to be curious, that we normally suppress in so many areas of our lives. So play parties play a very, very important role in creating spaces where people can be expressive and expansive. And oftentimes that does include having sex with multiple people, or having sex in front of people, or watching people have sex, or getting your dick sucked by two people, or whatever. Like, or, you know, having a big thing is male, male, female. A lot of people are surprised by that, but like the amount of people who are into male, male, female is extraordinary. Like, so many people are into that, and I think a lot of people are shocked by that. And that doesn't mean that anybody is gay or wants to play with the man. It's just an experience to have.
No, that's dope. I've written plenty of erotic male, male, female stories, so I totally get that. I love that you're pointing out for someone who hasn't been before, what is maybe like a couple of key points that were recommendations for them to kind of like keep in mind, and when they're prepping for their first time going, either by themselves or with a partner or partners.
Yeah. First thing, God, there's so many ways that we can go into this. But the first thing I want everyone to know, besides play is not required, is consent is. So we take consent very, very seriously. I feel safer at any play party where dicks are dangling and boobs are out or whatever. I feel safer in that environment than I have ever felt in any club, in any other situation, because we are all there knowing that consent is absolutely required. In our real lives, there can be some nuance with consent. There is not nuance at play parties. And like I said, I'm the consent director, so I deal with investigations. So when people...
What does that look... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Can you tell us, before you continue on with that, can you tell us what asking for, and giving consent looks like
Yeah,
in a practical sense, and then
absolutely.
continue on because I do want to hear what you were saying about being a consent director
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. So, what I was saying is that in our lives, sometimes it can feel like consent has some nuance, and to a degree, especially in established relationships, there can be. But at a play party, we expect that you are going to be getting that verbal consent. So that verbal, like, can I do this? I would love to do that. How does that feel for you? Or can I touch you here? Can I lick you there? Would you like this? Like, really asking with specificity and information what it is that you would like to experience with that person. Who is doing what? Where's what going? What are we touching? What are we doing? Being explicit with your words and waiting for that full fuck yes. And what I mean by that is that the words are matching the physicality. So coming back to these hard and soft skills, right? Coming back to this masculine, feminine, the words are the linear. The body language is the fluid. The more creative, we'll say, the soft skills and the hard skills. The hard skills are asking the question, the soft skills are looking for that response. So when we are saying that we want that full fuck yes, are they making eye contact? Is their body excited? Are they opened up to you, or are they a little bit closed off? Are they hesitant to give you that response? Are they saying maybe? A maybe is a no, and you ask once. If the person wants what you are offering, they will fucking find you. I
Emphatic hell
promise you
yes,
that.
y'all.
Yes. Yeah, it has to be, especially in a play party situation, it has to be that full body enthusiastic fuck yes. It has to be, because anything less than that is likely going to be fawning, and that is not consent. And so what fawning is when we say yes because we just feel a societal pressure, a
To
safety
appease
pressure
them.
to
Or,
appease
or
them. It's
please.
100%. It's people pleasing. It is so incredibly common, especially in sexual assault cases, specifically because so much sexual assault happens with people that you know. And so we're just trying to get ourselves out of that situation. And believe you me, that happens at play parties. So you want to be very, not the assault side of it, but people saying yes because they feel like they have to. They're people pleasing. They just are like, yeah, sure. Or maybe they weren't given the option to say no. But fawning absolutely happens. And it's why, if you are paying attention to their bodies, you will be able to determine whether that is a full fuck yes. And if you have any reservation, if you have any doubts, if you have any part of yourself that's like, is that a yes? It's a no.
I love that. I
Pause.
know,
Do
like,
something else.
being socialized into a high control religious group, cult, any type of thing like that, I know that we were socialized in every sense of the word to be people pleasers, very socialized to either
Which
do.
the scripture be all things to all people.
Yes,
Literally.
exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
that's
So it's like,
impossible.
exactly,
Impossible.
it is impossible. Like if y'all, y'all listening, you're never going to please everybody.
No.
Somebody's going to not like you. And I know we're all, so many of us coming out of the church was socialized that, you have to handle the word of God right and never bring shame. That's bullshit. It's impossible. Someone is always going to dislike you for some reason. Find a way to find a path to being yourself.
What you said there about being in a high control group and being taught to people please, to always say yes, to never say no.
Yep.
Actors have the same experience. And I will say, film production as a whole has that same experience, because you can see that within departments and on the crew side as well. And so this is a part of why intimacy coordinators are so incredibly important, because actors are trained to yes and. I
Oh
am trained as
yeah.
an actor as well. Like, I have whatever, like a minor in theater or some shit. So, it's actors are trained to say yes and it is a culture where saying no means you're not going to get the job, you're not going to get the role, you're not going to get the opportunity, your dreams are not going to come true. So that is why these conversations around consent in all of these different areas, and actually allowing yourself to feel what that full fuck yes feels like, and creating space for the other person to give that full fuck yes, and understanding power dynamics and understanding emotional intelligence. It's why these things are so important, because so many of us in all of these different ways have been taught that you can't say no.
I
And
love how
baby,
you
you
got
can.
into that. I think a lot of that speaks to, because I know in the tech world, I know in brand, design, marketing, in corporate world also, we're taught to, if you want to progress, if you want to move up, if you want to get closer to any type of leadership position, it's like, it's how much of a team player are you? How
Yeah.
much of a culture fit are you? And too often that has always involved, just doing what you're told. I think that's why, like, we have to have more conversations around ethics. And I think in order to have conversation around ethics, you have to have a conversation around your own personal values. And to do that, you got to be clear on what your values are. I think for me, one of the things I did was started to do a lot more research on figuring out, what my values look like in a practical sense, and then how I execute on that in like a application at work. I think in tech, I'm bringing tech up for a very specific reason, because we see right now developers, programmers, software engineers, UX designers, that kind of folks, there's things called dark patterns, which, yes, I understand the racial connotations of that, and it's really fucked up. I won't go in that direction. But being told to employ dark patterns so that people will unwittingly click on things they didn't mean to, and making things confusing because it creates, makes an extra 5 cents for the company, or even more, larger numbers. And then on the developer side, it's like, okay, let's write code to make it so an algorithm can suppress sexual content, or content around gender, or content around things like Palestine and what's happening in Sudan and Congo, and then sex in general, and how, if more people in the process of delivering technology would be willing to stand up and take the risk of saying, no, this is not only is this against my values, I can show you why this is unethical. And that's something that I very much appreciate Laura Kalbag and Aral Balkan, of being sticklers of pushing people to really think about those things. And then Coraline from the Organization for Ethical Source done a great job with that. I won't go back into the business world though, because this is really more about this is about sex. This is about talking about intimacy and relationships and all that. But I think it's important because all of these things have crossover. I think you are a perfect example of the intersecting reality of our lives, and that there's really no such thing as complete siloed and separation of like your work life, your personal life, your intimate life. I think we have so much crossover. That is the reality of like an organic lived experience. I feel like I might be cutting you off.
No, not at
Okay.
all. I'm just I'm listening at the moment.
Okay. And I love the
I'll jump in if I have something to add.
you shared so much gold about play parties and intimacy, and everything on that side. I was going to say something, and I just my whole thought just went and just disappeared. And I think it had something to do with the acting, but the thought eludes me.
I have that effect on
Are you looking for a
people.
question?
Sure, yeah. I'll let you save me.
Well, I'm like,
Please
we are.
do.
It's so close to an hour already. I'm like, oh, but I wanted to hear like a couple things that I was hoping we could just chat on real quick. One was I would love to know like your favorite experience as an intimacy coordinator, or if there's anything in that world that people might be surprised by that would be good for them to know when they're watching films or TV. And then the other side is just how do you, the pleasure producer, help us to fuck like the movies?
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
So
Perfect.
let's yeah, that was really well done. Like props to you there. So let's
She's good at
just
what she
first
does.
talk. I know y'all are great. I love you. Yeah, let's talk about intimacy coordinating. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the job is. We are not the sex police. We are not there to interject ourselves, to get in the way of anything. We are there to make it hotter or make it whatever it needs to be. So we realistically, what I always tell everyone, I'm looking at the producer, I'm looking at the director, I'm looking at each cast member, and I'm like, I got your back, I got your back, I got your back, I got your back, I got your back. Just like um, the sparkles with the AD stuff that I was saying of the whole production. So I used to have the sparkles of the entire production. Now I just have the sparkles of the intimate scenes, of the vulnerability, of the nudity, of the touch. And when I say vulnerability, it's not just they're naked, they're kissing, they have a sex scene or anything like that. That can be anything that is vulnerable. So that can be an intense harassment scene. That can be an intense scene. I did a scene where someone was, she was locked in this like vault. And so we had to shoot a time jump of her in there for like 24 hours or 48 hours or 3 days, whatever it was, with no food, no water, or like maybe being delivered a couple of things. So her being locked up. And that's a very intense thing to go through. And the thing that she told me on the way out was like, I'm so glad that you were there because I don't think I would have been able to go as deep. I knew you were there to catch me. I don't know that I would have been able to go as deeply as I did, but I did because I knew you were there to catch me. I knew you were here on the
That's
other
awesome.
end.
She got somebody in the room who her best interest is your focus. I love that.
100%.
Like you're the safety net.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool.
And this comes from these deep conversations with the director. I can't support people in that way if I don't really understand what the director is going for. So I am there to make your dreams come true. Now, your dream might be to see this sexual act simulated on screen, and the actors performing it might not feel comfortable with that. But there are 1,000 ways to tell a story. So, my job is to take this big, beautiful vision. And when I talk to the directors, I want to know the most expansive version of your vision. I'm not promising that we can do that, but I want to know, what is your big dream? What is your biggest vision here? What is your deepest desire? Everything comes down to, what is the desire, right? Sex life in production, all of it. When you're creating an experience, what is the desired outcome? Then we look at, okay, now we know what the vision is. When we have that vision, now we can start to pull all of the pieces together that we need to co-create that vision as a team, whether that's a team of 2 in your bedroom or 3 or 4 in your bedroom, or it's a team of 150 people on a set, which when it comes to intimacy, you're only going to have maybe 3, 4, or 5 people in the room. It's not everybody, of course. So we take that vision, and then I talk through that vision with each actor in a space where they have room for that consent, where they have room to really digest the vision, digest their character, digest their human experience, and then decide, yeah, that sounds fucking great. I am so in for that. And you know what? This is the only area of my body that's off limits, or this is, I'm good with everything we would possibly need to do. We'll go through all the different types of touch, types of kiss, tongue, no tongue. I mean, we get so granular and so detailed, because the more I understand about the vision and the more I understand about each person's individual boundaries and what they see for this scene and what they see for themselves and their body and what's going to be on screen forever, the more I can pivot on the day when we need to, and the more I can be in the space to support however people need it. And some directors are like, "Yep, you go and you give them the notes." And I would say, I think all directors by the end of shooting with me are like, "You just go tell them," because I have the shorthand. I know they trust me to give the notes, give the physicality, give whatever it is, but it's always going to be in alignment with what they want. I will always go to the director, "Hey, what do you think about that? Did you like that? How do you feel about if we shorten this or long this, or if we do this or whatever?" Like it is always a conversation with them first, getting their sign off for whatever those adjustments may or may not be. And then either they'll give them the note or I'll give them the note. And it's checking in with the cast and how do they feel and what do you want to change? It's so,
So
a lot of, oh,
it
go
sounds
ahead.
a lot like you're the mediator between fantasy and reality and making
Yes.
sure that everybody's happy, because the storyteller, like you said, has a vision and they want to see it and they know what kind of story they want to deliver to the audience. But then the reality is that the people who have to deliver the actual story, this is not their real thing or whatever. So, yeah, that's really cool. So then for movies and things like that where there's really difficult scenes, if there's an intimacy coordinator on the team, then we can feel good about watching it, and it doesn't feel like we can know that the people who were in those scenes that look really hard to swallow, like they were okay and they were good with how it went down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you
I
for
check
answering that
everything.
question.
Yeah, I will always look for an intimacy coordinator. And we are still in a time where, for the most part, they are on everything. It is a SAG requirement to make best efforts, which is as close to being required as we're going to get in this contract.
Oh,
The
that's
next
good. I didn't
contract
know
is,
that.
yeah. So if it's a SAG production, in the US anyway, with SAG actors, then they do need to make best efforts. And at this point in 2025, if you can't find an intimacy coordinator, you need to call me because you got a problem, because I can find an intimacy coordinator for you.
I know a
So
handful myself, so
Yeah, exactly. If you
exactly.
can't
Like,
I
find
know
one, you
them.
weren't looking.
Come on.
yeah, you literally were not looking, because there
Yep.
are enough of us that are certified, qualified, SAG accredited, qualified, that can do the job and do the job well.
It's like
So,
trying to find a Waffle House in the South and saying there's no
right?
Waffle House. I'm like,
Exactly.
did you not drive to
Exactly.
the end of that street?
Exactly. Like,
just
what are you talking
five
about?
intersections.
Yeah,
Or
that's what we call
unfortunately, a
bad
church in the South.
producing. Yeah, and let me tell you, there are a lot of bad producers. There are a lot of people who are bad at their jobs out there, and that's a
Yeah.
part of it. So, yeah, it's a co-creation. The same way that sex in your real life is a co-creation, it's a co-creation. So, to your question of how do we help you fuck like the movies, well, we take that same pathway, and so my program takes you through all of the stages of production, but within yourself and your intimacy. So we go through the green light phase, we go through development, we go through pre-production, production, post-production. We talk about the sequel. We go through all of these phases, because when you can really start to break it down and see, okay, what needs to happen here? Oh, I might need to work on our communication and understanding what a full fuck yes is like. Okay, we got to work on that. Like, I got to make sure I'm not having this duty sex here. And duty sex is when you're just saying yes because you feel like you have to for your partner. And most couples in long-term relationships are having a lot of duty sex, and it's not great. And we want to get you away from that. I don't want you ever fucking for I am not a proponent of like, we have to fuck on Tuesdays just to keep the connection. Go fuck yourself, literally. Because if you are not both a full fuck yes to that experience, then you are just harming your relationship. And there are a lot of sex coaches and a lot of sex therapists that are like, you got to have the maintenance sex. And I do not want you to do that. There are so many ways to be connected and intimate. And this program teaches you all those different things, so that when one of you are not in that full fuck yes to be sexually intimate, there are other things you can do to still build that intimacy, to build that connection, to build that eroticism. And you can go fuck yourself. Like, literally. I don't mean that degradingly.
I know coming out of the church, a lot of that message of the duty sex, the wifely do, and all that comes out of that, because especially the group we came out of, not only is like so many variations of sex considered prohibited, masturbation was considered prohibited. So like you got a lot of really sexually frustrated people who like have a very narrow window and very limited opportunity of how they can explore their sex. Everyone's going to be a lot happier. The person who's not in a space for it can be a lot happier, and pressure can come off of their shoulders for feeling like they have to deliver on something they're not wanting to or able to or what have you. But a lot of that comes right down to we have to be willing to critique a lot of the underlying foundational messages we've learned, a lot of the rules and expectations. That takes a lot of not only working through cognitive dissonance, but it takes a lot of courage to be willing to like kind of like excavate through your own self, look at what doesn't work for you, what doesn't serve you, and then figure out how to change it to reflect something that works for you.
We do that, like that's in the development phase. We go into your belief systems. We go into exploring
That's
that
dope.
stuff, because it's not about toys and tips and techniques. Like, I want to rewire your brain for pleasure. And I want to make sure that you know what a full fuck yes feels like, that you can look at your beliefs and what's not serving you, that you have your turn on menu with your full menu of options and all these different things you can do, that you know how to have conversations, that you can tap into your erotic persona, that you can do all those things. So by the time you get to production, you're fucking ready to go. And you know how to improvise and you know how to pivot because you got all those things down. So I had to
Sounds like
say
a
that because
post-purity
it's,
culture dream. It
Yeah, I was
sounds
just
like
gonna say,
yeah.
so is it like a one-on-one with you program, or is it a do it yourself? Like, what kind of program is it?
Yeah, it's all self-paced and then monthly
Oh, okay.
calls. So
Oh,
there's
cool.
eight modules, 3 lessons per module. They're all relatively short because I ain't trying to take all your time. I want this to be effective, so they're short and effective. Everything has worksheets. It's meant to be done as a couple. You can do it on your own as well, but a lot of the things are couples exercises. But take it by yourself, and then when you're in a couple, bring your partner into that too. You
exactly. I
know?
mean, that's how it often works. One person will kind of like see the light, get all this information,
You
start
saw
doing the
like,
work, and then share it with their partner.
Yeah.
With the calls, are these group calls? Are
Mhm.
these one-to-one calls? How does that work
So they're
for your program?
Yeah, they're group coaching calls because I think that there's so much power in hearing other people's stories.
Yes,
I
it
love
is.
that.
Yeah.
That's dope.
And
Keep
building
talking.
community. Yeah, no, and building community too. And so I have a private community called the Pleasure Crew. So if you get any sort of freebie from me, you'll be invited into the Pleasure Crew. And then I have the Backstage Pass, which is a different set of monthly Ask Me Anything calls. But if you join Fuck Like the Movies, we have our own private space too. And so it's monthly calls because I enjoy the one-on-one coaching, but also with production, like it's too difficult for me to do. And I personally don't feel like I can show up as well in the one-on-one setting. I'm like a little bit too sensitive with people and I'm a little bit too like therapist style in the one-on-one setting. So for me also, which is so important that as a facilitator, I am showing up in my power and in the best way that I can to serve my community. And so I just found that the group dynamic, there's so much to offer and so many people have things to offer each other. It's not just about me, it's about you sharing your experiences and cultivating community because I think a lot of couples really don't have other couples who to talk to about their sex. Like, yes, sure, if you're in a swingers community, no problem. But most people are
Yep.
not in swingers community. Most
Yep.
couples are in silos by themselves and they don't have the kind of friends that they can talk to about their sex. They don't have the kind of communities that they can talk to and connect with other couples about the sex that they're having. It's maybe one-on-one, like, you know, this partner talks to their best friend and this partner talks to their best friend, but there are not many spaces where we can collectively have these conversations. So I think the group coaching is really an important aspect of that.
I love that. That's awesome.
Sold.
So let me ask you, what is the new community member? What should they expect? Like, so you've gone through the process, you've signed up, you've paid for that month, or like, what do you expect, especially from the community aspect? So say you're a couple who's wanting to explore sexuality in this way. You want to fuck like a movie star, or fuck like the movies rather. Like, what do I expect? When I like day one, what does my expectation look like? What's that experience going to be like for us?
Yeah, so the platform that I use is a gamified platform. So you get to collect points as you do things. So you'll watch your videos, you'll check your little marks. It's a shared login for that, but then you'll each get your own separate login for our private community. I kept them on 2 different spaces so that we can do that. So you have instant access. You've got the first 2 modules for free. It's a 14-day money back guarantee because I just believe in the safety net of that. So you can like get in, start to taste around, get some things. There are exercises and handouts for every single module. You can listen. There's an audio version, there's a transcript version. So, however you like to learn is how you get to experience this program, which I think is really important because not everybody learns well with videos. Not everybody learns well with reading. Not everybody learns well with audio. I wanted to provide people with the options because I don't want you to just like come in here and be like, okay, great, I signed up for this program and now I'm not doing anything. Well, like, that doesn't do anything for you. I don't want your money. Like, that's not what this is about. Obviously, I have to run a business, but like the point is that you are taking this information and you're taking action on it. So everything has action steps and you get to collect your little points. You'll get added into the community. It's brand fucking new. I got like 8 people in there, y'all. So come in, join the community, whether you're in Fuck Like the Movies or not. And my intention for the space is that first of all, it's a private space for Fuck Like the Movie. So if you're in the program, that's where we can ask questions and I will be in there answering your questions. It's where we can share our wins, share celebrations, share challenges, share experiences, get coaching there as well as on our monthly calls. And then there's the overall community as well that's going to have more people, because if you get even one of my freebies, you'll have access to the pleasure crew, and then Backstage Pass is a different membership level. It's $10 a month. It's kind of tied to Substack. But really, we get suppressed on social media. We get shut down everywhere. There are not too many spaces. I mean, I literally just lost my account. Arielle Zadok is gone, and so are all of my contacts. It sucks.
I am so sorry. When we saw that, we're like, yeah, they, but I look at it this way. If you're not getting hit, then maybe you're not doing something enough to make power feel threatened.
Yeah.
Because sex threatens
Even if
authoritarianism.
it's just creepers in there reporting every freaking thing we do.
Yeah.
So you're doing some
we're
things.
dealing with it like really bad on Instagram too. It's like hard enough to stay in the green, and then when you're in the green, then you've got other people just reporting every single thing you do. I constantly feel like I have just tape over my mouth every time, and I'm
Yeah.
like, how am I supposed to communicate with people and talk like adults and get this message out when I can literally say 5 words?
Yeah.
And hope that people connect and get what I'm trying to say. It's so frustrating.
It's so difficult. So that's really also why I wanted to create a private community. And it's like, literally just download something from me and you'll get into the pleasure crew. Like, I want to make it easy. And then there are obviously different tiers for different levels of membership and support. So with Fuck Like the Movies, you get the most support. So you get coaching in the platform, you get to connect with other people. Then we have our monthly calls. So really, I just wanted to create a space where we can have these conversations, where we're not going to get shut down, where you can share things. And then, it's the ongoing nature of it. So you can take this course at your own pace. You have lifetime access. It's not going away. You pay once, you have it forever. And it's not each partner paying. It's one price. You pay for it, you have it, done. Then you get to tap into this work when you need it most, because my goal is not to teach you how to make someone squirt or give a good blowjob or anything like that. My goal is to teach you as an individual and as a couple how to move through your shit, determine what it is you want, what it is you don't want, how to tap into the most aligned erotic side of yourself, and prepare yourself for whatever experience you want to have. Make sure you have all the things you need to do the thing you want to do, execute it. And then, we talk about aftercare. We talk about vulnerability hangovers, especially after a deeply intimate experience, is so fucking real. Whether that's sharing your desires, you can share your kinks with a partner or your desires or your fantasy with a partner, and then immediately have a vulnerability hangover. I give you the tools to work through that.
Yeah, I love that
Yes.
you're talking about that, because
Yeah.
it is, if you want all the end result things and you want to get there successfully and you want to get there with as little tension and residual trauma as possible, what you're saying is like that's the gold right there, is like the strategies and the tools to be able to get you from point A, recognizing the desire, to point X, which is having been able to execute on what you want. But there's so much in the middle, and I don't think oftentimes enough folks are thinking about how do you get, they think, okay, I want this thing, how do I convince my partner to do this thing, versus there's a lot of other work to do, there's a lot of other steps. There's nothing wrong with having a desire, but you have to understand the map to get there is not necessarily what a lot of folks learn, from the non-existent sex education we pulled from media or from friends in school or what have you, because sex ed in America is so fucking lacking. I love that you're doing that.
Yeah. It's a real bait and switch, because it's a sex program and you will fuck like the movies. You will have
Absolutely.
these deeply erotic experiences, and you will feel the way you want to feel when you're watching. I'm watching True Blood again. So like, you will feel the way you want to feel when Sookie's getting fucked by Bill. Like, you will have those experiences, but it's not going to be because you got a toy. It's not going to be because you learn how to finger someone. It's not going to be because of those things. It's going to be because you worked on the things in your head. You you learned how to communicate with your partner. You learned what consent actually looks like, and you're learning how to actually prep the space and prep yourselves to play with the toy, to try that technique, to do these things. But I
love
can't
that.
change your life through a fucking toy. That's not
I
it.
love that.
It's
Because
not
it
it.
sounds like you're doing a lot to help folks to release shame,
Yeah.
which I know like sex before having been willing to give up shame and getting all the tools to do that versus sex after is so much more enjoyable.
Ah.
Same person, same people, even some of the same mechanics, very different outcome, so much more enjoyable, so much more erotic, hot, satisfying, all of that shit. Like, and it sounds like you're doing a lot to help folks be able to tap
Speed
into
that
that.
up.
Yeah, that
Speed that process
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
It's
I
the
love
internal shifts. You need
yeah,
them.
exactly.
It's not a toy.
I love
I mean, we go over toys, sure, but like that's one of your props. But by the time we're
Yeah.
talking about props, we've gone through the development phase. We've gone through the green light phase, the production phase, that's part of pre-production, which again, like we do cover that in the course because you got to have the right props. You got to have the right lighting. You got to have the right, like you got to set the scene, y'all. That
Yep.
is a part of this. But before you can set the scene, what the fuck scene are you creating? And what do you need to
Yes.
get there? And what is in your way from actually doing that and showing up as the person that you want to show up as?
I love that. Reminds me of the first time we got black lights and put it in the bedroom because I love the I love the whole set and the ambiance, the black lights and then the RGB rope light to change the
Yeah.
colors
Oh
and
my
like
God,
set the
so
whole
fun.
thing. You gotta do some production. I mean, I know it's
Yes.
not an all the time thing, but it's a like when it hits, it really hits. Reminds
Yeah.
me of the game we did, the whole Mr. and Mrs. Smith thing.
Oh, yeah.
Setting the whole
Ooh.
scene and getting all dressed up and we're pulling
Yeah.
elements of like, you know, the BDSM gear and just like our own swag pulling into it. And yeah, I love that. I love like that was the setting the stage. And like I love your approach to setting the stage so much to the point that like I built out my own little handbook so I could start setting the stage more and like up in my game. And I'm like, oh, this is dope. We already do this kind of stuff. Like we can, to go to what you were saying, like pull from our other skill sets to do this stuff and work it out. That's one of the things I love about like everything I've learned from the BDSM community is like they're so practical and technical with a lot of stuff. And I know like they're always talking about like Sunny and Luna Matata, and so you'll hear a lot of like or Sex Nerd Sandra. They're nerds for sex and they're nerds for kink, and so like they're really meticulous about stuff. So it makes it really easy to like cull through. Oh, you know what? I kind of like that approach. I kind of like that approach. Let me
Yeah.
build that to build my own kit out, which is cool.
And I want to also reflect back to you how much joy and connection I just saw in the two of you, not talking about the sex that you had, but talking about the experience of co-creating that scene. And
Yep.
that's where the fucking magic is, y'all. And that is
Yes.
what I'm teaching you how to do. It's that now you have this beautiful memory of co-creating something together, and like the way that you just turned towards each other and remember how we did this, and oh, remember how you added this and you added your skills. That is where the intimacy is, and that's what allows you to have these deeply erotic experiences together that will keep you connected. And it's the tools that it can shift no matter where you are in your relationship, because you're going to have times where one or both of you, because of aging, injuries, birth, whatever it is, that you're not going to be able to be physically intimate in a sexual way, but you can still co-create these beautiful, erotic, intimate, connected experiences. So like, I just wanted to reflect that back to you
Oh,
because
thank
that's
you
what the
so
fuck I'm
much.
looking for. That's what I want to help people with.
Oh, I love that. The thing I love about that too is like to go to what you're saying. That's how you take sex, which can be a relatively small period of time,
I was
and
gonna
stretch
say
it
the
out the whole day
Yeah.
because it's
That's
like it's
literally what I was thinking. That's how sex is 4 to 6 hours, y'all. It's not literal, like literal 4 to 6 hours, but 4 to 6 hours of play and imagination and some sex and just build up and the whole thing.
the watching
Those
you
are,
get
yeah.
ready and like all the little pictures I took of you doing your eyes,
Yes.
and like it's just like kind of
Get
building that
lost
anticipation.
in the moment for a while.
Yeah, which is really dope. I mean, obviously there's the tantric sex, which I know can
Yes,
stretch it
sure.
out with the massage and yada yada. But yeah, I feel you with that.
And we cover rituals too, the pre-sex rituals, they're
I
important.
love
Like
that.
all this stuff is important, you know, and
That's that whole
we just
ritual right
yeah,
there.
and we blow through it or we just don't, you know, this came about because I was just thinking as a sex educator, as a health coach, and then I have this whole separate intimacy coordinator producer role. It was just like, well, what would happen if we brought this level of intentionality and purpose into our sex lives? Like why let's fucking do that. So that's where Fuck Like the Movies came from.
That is so
I love it.
cool. When you talk about as an intimacy coordinator, I'll make this my last question. And if I'm a liar, you call me out on it. A lot of people are saying how like, there's more sex on TV, there's more nudity on TV, and it might feel like that to them, but statistically, it's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
The inverse, where it's actually we have less nudity in movies and TV.
Mm-hmm.
There's less sex in movies and TV now, and which we find unfortunate. But
Yeah, we need more slow burn shows.
Yeah.
Can you share why, from your point of view, sexuality, sex, intimacy, nudity, and all that in TV meant for adults, obviously, to anyone who's going to be ridiculous and try to act like that we're not talking about for adults only. Why having media on TV, in movies, with sexuality, nudity, and all of that, eroticism, what is the value of that? Like how is that valuable for individuals, for couples? Because I know a lot of people, we were raised to be terrified of that, like it would ruin our marriage, blah blah blah. I mean, we are happier now more than we were before, and we've been together a hot ass minute. But I want to hear what your perspective on this, because it's incredibly informed, will be nuanced, I'm sure, and you've got like hands-on expertise doing this as your day job.
Well, we learn from what we see, and we learn how to behave from what is around us, and what is around us is media. So when we look to media, whether it is simulated sex or pornography, we are using that as an example of what sex looks like. Because most people are not going to play parties, right? I see a lot of sex. I see a lot of ways that people connect, and I've seen a lot of sexual acts because I work at sex parties. People who go to play parties, they also see this. We have access to that. But the average person who doesn't go to any sort of play party doesn't have access to what sex looks like. So the only way that we can see what sex looks like outside of our own experiences is through media. Again, whether that's porn or simulated sex. So we're just going to talk about simulated sex here in mainstream media. What we saw up until a couple years ago, really, was the patriarchal, penile to vaginal,
The bullshit American
exactly.
Pie.
Bullshit American Pie. A lot of depictions of sex and sexuality that were absolutely not pleasurable for any person with a vulva. There was no foreplay. Even as I'm rewatching, and I might do like a little sub-series through Birds and Bees Don't Fuck About, rewatching True Blood, such a great show, and people loved the sex in that show, right? But as I'm watching it now, I'm like, this motherfucker never went down on her once, okay? Like they're just going.
We're running
straight
into that now when we're
do that too.
rewatching stuff, because we keep calling it out, and we're gonna do the same thing.
Yeah.
We actually started critiquing
What is
stuff.
wrong with them?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Keep going. I'm listening.
And so,
I'm listening.
but it's such. I encourage everyone to go back and watch some of those earlier pieces of work, because we were never showing what sex actually looks like. We were never showing the messiness. We were never showing the buildup. We were sometimes a little bit of buildup. We were never showing the eroticism. We were never showing the female focused pleasure, the vulva focused pleasure. And when you look at the way that people we'll just talk about straight relationships, because we don't even see non-straight relationships of any sort. We don't see any real representation of LGBTQIA plus relationships, sexuality, it's so hard for us to see actual real depictions of that anywhere. Even today, we're getting better at it, but it's still really difficult to see like good examples of that. So we'll just talk about cis het relationships right now. And so there was just this forever long history of not really showing what that actually looks like. And when we do look at relationships in between cishet couples, usually they're going to start with some oral, right? We're going to start with, maybe we don't start with fingering, which like bring back the digital sex, y'all. Like
Yep.
hand stuff is so
Magic
good. Your
hands
hands
is
can
a
do
thing.
so much
Magic
stuff. Oh my
hands.
God. Like, yes, no matter what your body
And
parts
you don't have
are.
to be a certain size,
No.
to be proud of your magic
Your
hands.
hands are magic. Bring back the hands. People are always fascinated when I give them a hand job and they're like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, dude. Anyway, that's a tangent. So, we're not seeing any of that. Now that we have more awareness around this, now that we have intimacy coordinators involved, now that it's after Me Too, and that we are having these conversations around female pleasure, around eroticism, around the impractical, the unrealistic depictions of sex, we're starting to see more of that. And because of the way that we are producing things, we can show more again. Because there was a period of time after Me Too where people were afraid to show sex because we didn't know how to go about it, right? Like they were still pushing back. I mean, people still push back against intimacy coordinators. And the funny thing is, it's that it's always these big, powerful celebrities that they're like, not always, but the people who speak out against them tend to be these big, powerful celebrities. And it's like, baby, do you not see the power that you have? You are the most powerful person on that set, and you are the one that's going against it. It's not for you, honey baby. It is for everybody else on that set. That's a whole other tangent again. But
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that
Yeah.
out too. Because if we don't recognize our own positions of privilege and how that might insulate us from exploitation and abuse, we're not thinking about the folks who are not positioned in those points.
yeah, when you're talking about an A-list star being like, we don't need intimacy coordinators, it's like, honey, it's not for you.
Yeah.
You are a very people behave differently when you walk into a room. It's not for
Yep.
you. Yes, I'm there for you as much as you want or need me, but it's not for you. So when you are the one that's speaking out against intimacy coordinators, you're just literally making our point, because it's not for you. It's
I
for
love how you said
everybody
that.
else. Yeah.
It reminds me of being ex-Jehovah Witnesses. As much as I very much appreciate her and Prince and Michael Jackson and Venus Williams, in that they have a very different, I know for a certainty, they have a very different experience being Jehovah Witnesses as we did as regular rank and file. The things that Venus is able to do, nobody else could do. And they may not realize that because, they're in that point of privilege. So I love that you pointed that out.
Yeah.
I know I cut you off. I had cut you off, and I'm incredibly sorry.
No,
for
that's
doing
okay,
that
because
to
I
you.
just keep tangenting. So I'm leading itself to you. So anyway, part of what we're seeing now is that there is more intention. There's more awareness over how people are actually having sex and the importance of depicting who you are on TV. There is so much importance to seeing examples and recognizing yourself in characters. That's why it's important that we have different body sizes, different skin colors, different religious backgrounds, different lived experiences, different parts of the country, different parts of the world. It is important for us to see ourselves in the media. Otherwise, we are erased. So even when it comes to sex and intimacy and how we are depicting sex and intimacy on screen, it is important that we are showing all the different ways that people relate to each other in this way. And also, we have a responsibility to represent different communities with authenticity, because right now, when we look to the kink and BDSM communities, and again, when we're looking to the LGBTQIA plus communities, we are not depicting them accurately. We are still not there.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's one of the reasons why I'm a huge fan of King and Jasmine, King Noir, Jet Set and Jasmine from Royal Fetish Films, because of what they're doing in that area. And I also want to give a shout out to Luna Matatas, Dirty Lola, Sonny Megatron, and Ken Melvoinberg. I know Ken's not black or brown, but I know that he and Sonny work tightly together, and they've been putting in a lot of work to make sure representation happens, and as well as it makes me think of like P-Valley and why we love that show so much, because I love, number one, like I just forget Uncle Clifford. Just Uncle Clifford not fitting in any of the boxes, but then his relationship, I forgot the rapper's name that him and him got like a situationship going on, but just so much of how they have leaned into like a black version of queerness, a black version of just sexuality and not giving a fuck and all of that. I think it is so important. I think with, like you said, I mean, visibility, representation is huge. Exactly why they're trying to demonize it now is because they understand the power that is in being able to see a version of yourself reflected back as a mirror of your culture, of it being like visibility is in some ways it's legitimizing.
Yeah.
And as long as you refuse to show people, you can find a way to delegitimize them. So thank you for being willing to point that out. I think it's incredibly important. It's why I think all of this stuff is so intersectional: race, gender, orientation, class, and disability. All of it is so much overlap there. I feel like this is probably like gonna be the best point to ask you our closing question,
Ooh.
because I'm
I was
just gonna
gonna
keep
say,
I
going.
know.
You can't
we're
ask
we're
no
gonna
more
have to
questions.
do this
Yeah, yeah.
again sometime. So
So we like to ask folks, how do you sex, tech, and chill?
ooh, how do I sex, tech, and chill? Um, God, it's so all connected. The like, uh, I have such a holistic approach to everything, and so um, there's so when I hear sex, tech, and chill, I can look at it like you fuck, then maybe you watch a show and scroll a little bit, and then you go to sleep. That's one way to do that. You can look at that as like what tools are at your disposal to learn more about this thing you want to do, and then you can have better sex, and you're using the tech to like my program is all using tech, right? And that's going to help you chill. That is what helps you like be grounded and explore sex in a very grounded way that feels safe. When you feel safe, you can be expansive. Then you can also look at it like how many sex toys now are using tech and are using Caitlin V actually just is, I think, I don't know if it's released or she's doing the fundraiser yet, but she created a sex toy that syncs with your music. She's a DJ on the side. So like it's so fucking cool the way that we are using tech to experience more sexual, like more pleasurable erotic experiences. So there's like, yeah, I mean, there's so much intersectionality in the world that we live. We cannot separate the sex and the tech, but we got to be fucking chill about it, because if you're not, then you're just going to, become obsessed with porn, or you're going to rely only on a toy, or you're going to be, scrolling all day or whatever. So all of these things have to move and flow together. But yeah, my program is definitely sex, tech, and chill. Now that I
I
said that
love
out
that.
loud,
I
I was
love
like, wow,
that.
it
I'm
is.
thinking this is going to be one of my favorite questions.
Yes. And
I
if
love just watching your brain like roll with it. I was like, yes, keep going.
where can people find you online? Like people want like so they want to fuck like the movies. Where can they find you online and on social? We know you're not on IG right now because
Yeah, I have a lot of other
Meta
accounts, so
and
you
them
can still
fucked up.
find me. So you can find me at the
Okay.
Pleasure Producer everywhere. I'm grateful that I changed that because my name is hard to spell sometimes. So now that I've just lost my main account, I'm like, oh, well, good thing I have the Pleasure Producer. So you can find me at the Pleasure Producer everywhere. My show is Birds and Bees Don't Fuck. You can find that on YouTube and anywhere you get podcasts. We are now in pre-production for season 3 after taking like a year and a half off because I burned the fuck out. But there's like 54 episodes, so binge your little hearts out. Um, yeah, and that's it. You'll find me there. You can also check out the Sexy Directory on Substack. That's got articles and reviews. We'll be building that out more and more over time. But you can access Backstage Pass through the Pleasure Producer. So like, come on over. Let's hang out. Let's do things.
Okay, dope. You got anything coming up that you want to share with folks that they can any other ways they can support you, see your work or anything like that?
Yeah. So Backstage Pass, we do monthly Ask Me Anything calls. It's like a one-way coaching call. So that's more of like a live. So you send me your questions or you can ask me in the chat. We do that every month. Backstage Pass is only $10 a month, and that's got a private chat as well. You'll also get some BTS stuff. I share some pole stuff and some burlesque stuff in that platform too. So even if you just want to come in for some little cheeky entertainment, that's where my artist stuff goes as well. I host monthly new moon sensuality workshops for women in Los Angeles at Zula Den. It's called Coven of Harlots. The next one is, I don't know when this is airing, but it's always around the new moon. So the next one is on October 22nd. I have to look at the new moon for November and book that date as well. But you can come to that. That is a great workshop, and it's very fluid. It's open space to talk about sex and sexuality. We do some sensual movement, just totally free movement. We do meditations. It's a lot of group sharing because, again, I really think that each of you has so much to offer each other. It's not about me leading every conversation. I just want to be there to create the spaces. So those are some ways to connect with me on a regular basis.
Oh, dope! Thank you so much. I have a good feeling that folks are going to be connecting with you.
Yes.
Because so many gems in what you had to say today. Thank you so very much. Unless you had anything you wanted to add, I'm Yo Big Rube.
And I'm your girl, Sherri J. And
And,
where can the people find us?
Yeah, well, they can find us on on the socials, on IG, on LinkedIn. Yeah, I know every time I say LinkedIn,
Just
people are
say
probably like
across the
LinkedIn
socials.
across the
Yeah, yeah.
socials.
Across the
Sex Tech
socials.
and Chill.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
Sex Tech and Chill.
sextechandchill.com.
Exactly.
And we got a new website coming soon.
Ooh.
It's super fun.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm excited.
And I just
Very, very, very much.
I want to thank you both for having me on. This conversation was so much fun. I can talk to both of you forever. And I'm just so delighted to know you. And I'm so grateful to be here and to be in conversation with you. I had so much fun on the panel with you. I think you're both so smart, so grounded, so sexy, so fun. I'm just so excited to be in this collaboration and relationship with you and to see where we all go in time. So thank you for doing what you do.
word.
Likewise,
Thank you.
likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Thank
damn.
you.
Thank you very much. Peace, y'all.